Welcome to Off the Scale, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of the world's top short-term rental property managers. Join us as we uncover their secrets to scaling success, from pivotal milestones to the lessons learned through mistakes and triumphs. Hosted by Scale family members Damian Sheridan, Gianpaolo Vairo, and Louise Brace. Off the Scale reveals what drives these leaders each day and the indispensable tools that propelled them to the top. Tune in for inspiring stories, actionable insights, and the ultimate blueprint for scaling your own short-term rental business.
Welcome back to Off the Scale, the official Scale podcast. As always, we are digging down into property management best practices and very well-kept secrets from some of the industry's top players. This is Gianpaolo Vairo, co-founder of Scale, and in this episode we have a very special guest, Luis Andrews, Director and President of OVO Network. Now, a very well-known speaker that we have the pleasure to have in some of our recent conferences. Hi, Luis. Welcome to Off the Scale. How are you?
Hi, Gianpaolo. I'm very, very good. Thank you for the introduction.
So, in this podcast, we are always trying to understand what are your secrets, what are your best practices, what made your business so successful. So first of all, I would like to know what is your business about? Where are you based? The kind of properties you have, the number of units, what kind of guests you usually have at your properties.
Yeah, sure. So our company, our trading name is OVO Network. However, I think just to answer your question, our actual company name is our registered company name is OVO Software Services Limited. And I think that's actually a really good place to start, in the sense that, on the contrary to quite a lot of our peers and competitors who are very much property managers and therefore manage the properties and do the cleaning and do the welcoming, we're actually at our heart a software tech company. So we've developed our own PMS and our own direct booking platform, and those are our main services and products that we sell. So we're a UK tech company at our heart, but then we've also got a French subsidiary, which I'm the director of, and that's based more local to our partner properties. We have over 200 actually now, partner properties that are predominantly based in the northern French Alps, and those properties are high-end chalets, usually in authentic destinations. The capacity is around 8 on average, and the main type of guests are mainly families, but also groups of friends, people that are going there to network or to work. But predominantly, groups of 8 people, multi-generational, people that are looking for a bit of peace and quiet in the mountains.
Yeah, we recently had an interview with the VGD that in the background we were talking about. This is a sort of competitor. Even you said it is not properly a competitor. And we were discussing about the opportunity, as you said, French Alps, quiet place, where to stay. And a lot of people now, including myself, say, we are going to mountains instead of going to the beach. Do you feel this is, considering what is going on, the global warming and all this stuff, is this an opportunity to move, holiday rental business from the usual destination, let's say city center, seaside, to lakeside or mountains, as in your case? Is this, you see yourself in a better position than other property manager nowadays?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, though, in the sense that we've got 60% of our guests are guests that are domestic, and bearing in mind that the French domestic travelers it's the second biggest market in the world behind the US. So the French travelers actually, contrary to a lot of people, they don't envision the mountains as being just a winter destination, and that's something that's already been ingrained in their mind for quite a few generations. However, we are seeing that more and more international guests are starting to come in the summer as well. Now, with regards to the global warming point, I think that, for sure, people are maybe moving themselves away from the Mediterranean and coming more towards our mountains. I'm looking out my window right now directly at Lake Annecy, which is obviously one of the most picturesque places in the whole world. So there's water here and there's sun. So that's fantastic. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because global warming also means that there's less snow. So basically, whilst we can see our destinations maybe becoming a bit more attractive over summer, there could be an argument that they're becoming less attractive over winter. However, one thing that we're really trying to do is optimize rentals the whole year. So already when we talk about peak season, we make sure to say that we're not just a winter destination, we're a year-round destination. And that means that we find that our chalets are attractive to people regardless of the season, basically. But we've very much got two peak seasons, that's winter and summer, and then we've got shoulder seasons in autumn and spring.
I find this over time, this is something that more property managers are trying to diversify their portfolios, not focusing just in one kind of destination, not just seaside, not just city center, and more often I'm hearing people say, "Look, you need to look elsewhere," because people now are looking to stay outside the big cities or very packed destination, because also the massification tourism in big cities like, I don't know, Venice, Florence, Paris, or Barcelona. People say, "Oh, I'm just very tired of queuing for everything." So this kind of destination, of course, are going to be rewarded by new people looking for, peace, you say, and lower temperature for sure.
Yeah.
This was off topic, and when many times we find out that a lot of people started in vacation rental by accident. What was your story? How did you start it in the short-term rental industry?
Yeah, most people will start by running their own Airbnb and then deciding that they can make a business out of it. Our stories are slightly different. The company was founded in 2009, so I was only 13 years old, I think, at the time, or something like that. So I was still a bit too young to have any heavy involvement. However, the company was founded by two individuals, one of them being my dad. Both of those people, so Richard Little and Tim Andrews, were British entrepreneurs that had backgrounds in tech and finance. And both people actually happened to own properties in the French Alps. And over time, as they were seeing a lot of empty chalets effectively in the villages where they owned their properties, they started to use their brains and their entrepreneurial mindset to start to think, what can we do as a business? And this is, Airbnb is founded in 2008. So this is very much early days. And so they weren't quite aware of Airbnb just yet. And they were starting to look at these empty properties and say, is there a business here? Can we do something? And basically what happened is that they started to knock on doors and ask their neighbors, rather than having your chalet empty 90% of the time, how about we provide you with a tech solution that will help you rent it out and attract guests and attract revenue? And so that's what they did. And we've kind of had natural growth since then. So we started off with, one property, then two, and then very slowly grew to now over 200 properties. And we're now kind of reviewing our identity and very much asking ourselves the questions of, now that we are a bigger business and quite a big player, or at least a well-respected player, we recently won the best leisure property manager in the world at the Shorties this year. We're really saying, okay, well, what we believe that we're good. What is it that makes us good? And we're kind of asking ourselves those questions. And then just with regards to my involvement, I kind of started working with OVO in 2020 during COVID. So kind of maybe the worst time to start working for a vacation rental property company. But at the same time, it was actually the best period because I was faced with so much challenge that now it's not that everything seems easy, but when you've got a guest issue, you kind of say, well, at one point in my life, I had 1,000 guest issues all at the same time. So just one occasionally is easy to deal with. And then, I basically founded the French subsidiary in 2022. And that French subsidiary allows us to have employees on the ground in our destinations that can then build relationships effectively with owners and partners and different people in our local areas.
And what were your initial ambition for growing the company back in 2008?
Yeah, 2008, 2009 was when the company was founded. To be honest, I think like a lot of people actually in the short-term rental industry, it was a lifestyle business. It was founded because the founders liked to be able to travel wherever they wanted and just have a laptop with them. So it was very much kind of like, you know, the first digital nomads, or at least part of the first digital nomads before it became the craze that it is today. And they wanted a business which they could just run from their computers whenever they wanted, and therefore the ambition was almost ambitionless. Like there wasn't that much of an ambition. However, there was a lot of intelligence, I think, put into the reflection around how to construct the business, which is again in a very different way to how most property managers have constructed their business, which has now put us in a position that we've got a really unique product and a product that works really, really well. You know, we're now at a stage where we very much believe that we can guarantee any owner of a high-end chalet in the mountains that if they align with our vision, we are the right solution for them, we're the better solution for them, and we can achieve levels of success for them that no other company of our kind can. So we've got that strength, and that strength also comes back down to our ambitions that exist today now that we've kind of developed, and those are to really define our niche. And again, as I've been saying, it's unique chalets in authentic destinations, and then really master that niche. So be very selective in the properties that we work with, and also the owners that we work with, because we feel we can add so much value to those owners, and then basically really trying to provide that value to as many owners as possible. So we're very much in a growth or scaling stage at the minute.
So when did you realize that you were scaling? What was the big win for your company while scaling?
The first big win, I was talking about this this question with the team earlier, and my intern Alex told me that the biggest win that we've ever had is hiring him. So my biggest win is hiring our most recent intern. But above that, though, I think that it does touch on a point that I see as a massive win, which is the recruitment process, first and foremost, that we kind of go through at OVO Network. We're a really young team. My employees at the French subsidiary range in age from 23 to 33 years old. That's not to say that we're not open to working with wise individuals like yourself, but more that, you know, there's a certain hunger and just a dynamic that is really attractive to us with these types of individuals. And so I'm frequently just find myself in such a position of fulfillment when I look at the team, because they're people that I really believe in, that I really care for, and we all get on really well with each other. And therefore that's a big win. And I think that it's something that some people don't necessarily talk about enough. And I think that the team and the team culture is really important. On a more capitalistic approach, I think, again, just seeing the performance that we can generate for owners time and time again, when we do, you know, sometimes we have owners that have built these chalets or they've bought chalets that have cost them 2 million, 3 million, 4 million euros. It's a lot of money. And sometimes they've maybe worked with one of our peers or one of our competitors, and the return on investment has been nowhere near where they hoped it would be. You know, we've had instances where we've got certain of our current owners who were working with competitors before us, and that we're getting 1, 2, 3 bookings per year. Whereas we're now at a level where we're managing to, fill their properties at close to 85% occupancy rates year round. So seeing that shift and being able to appreciate the value, but also the product itself in their properties, and then being able to just reach that property's potential through our expertise, that's definitely a big win. And being able to see that time and time again is really fulfilling. And then finally, I think that maybe the final point with regards to big wins is just helping to influence local decisions, local economy, and local actors. We're really more and more heavily invested in being involved on a local level, talking to the tourist offices and the mayors and the restaurant owners and just everyone, because again, we operate in outside of urban areas. You know, these are not huge cities. These are very small, minuscule villages that have got a history and have got their own challenges that they're having to face now with, you know, global warming and things like that. So working together as a community is something that's a big part of our values, and is something that I consider to be a big win more and more as well.
And the biggest milestone?
Our biggest milestone, I think, goes back to the fact that we're a software company, and therefore our milestones will most frequently be tracked by the fact that we're continuously developing new functionality. So, you know, we've recently rebranded, I think 2 years ago now, our entire website and how we work and display our properties and how we interact with our guests. We've just run out a lot of new developments. So like recently we launched a loyalty program, which allowed guests to that were returning to get to benefit from a discount when they were booking the same property for a second time or a third time or whatever. And we also rolled out, for example, yesterday, our new cancellation policy, which allows people to apply flexible cancellations, allowing them to basically can't cancel for any reason up to 2 days before arrival. And those are very much the milestones that we look at. I mean, obviously I could say, oh, it was when we achieved, you know, our 20,000th booking or whatever. But to be honest, we're more into innovation and creativity above anything else. And therefore those are the main things that we kind of track.
Not one question, possibly you need to take to speak in name of your father. Have he ever told you that would have changed something in the story of OVO Network? Something that, with, you know, looking back, say, I could have done this different or better, or but with different eyes, with different approaches. Or
yeah, totally. I think the in my mind, obviously, with growth comes a lot of changes. So we're actually going through massive structural changes right now, identity changes, really trying to understand who we are. I don't know if I'd call it a mistake, but I think that one thing with hindsight we could have looked back on and done slightly differently is just the balance between innovation and foundation work. So what I mean by that is that I think that because we're creative and innovative, we've always focused on new developments, new ideas, and kind of gone very quickly towards those new ideas. And sometimes that's affected the foundation work in the sense that sometimes the less exciting things haven't quite been looked after as much as the exciting things. And I think that if there's a piece of advice there, it's to just make sure that, you know, all the admin tasks, all the regulation tasks, the legal tasks, things like that, they're all looked after at the same rate as the growth, because sometimes you can grow quicker than you were expecting and you're having to play catch up. And I think that now we're aware of that, and we're very much doing things in the right way and following the correct processes, and it is a really nice place to be in. But I think we could have been in that position earlier, and it would have done the whole company some good.
With all these discoveries, what are your future goals? Because, you know, scaling is a process that is in the past, in the present, in the future. What are your next milestones for the growth of your company?
Yeah, I mean, it goes to again, the level of service. We want to continue to grow without diluting our brands or diluting the level of service. So, you know, if we're right now, we're the longest running, for example, we're the longest running superhost in France, a professional superhost. I think we've been a superhost on Airbnb for something like 68 months straight now, which proves a level of quality in terms of the guest reviews and things like that. And that's obviously quite difficult to maintain as you're growing. It's quite unheard of, actually, for a property manager of our size to have superhost status for that long. And therefore, I think that's one of the main ambitions and the main goals, is to continue to grow in terms of inventory. And we'd really like to, you know, one day hit 500 properties. That would be like a big milestone that we could target. But at the same time, we really need to make sure that the quality of our service, both to guests but also to owners, doesn't diminish as we grow. So that's why I think all the conversations that we have at Scale Rentals, for example, around growing and scaling and the difference between the two is actually really interesting for us, because one thing that we're actually looking to do right now is scale more than grow.
Okay, yeah, this is really important. So what is, in your opinion, the difference between scaling and growing?
I think Simon Lehman said it best a couple of years ago in Barcelona when he was describing the differences. He was saying how growing is for every, let's say, 30 new properties that you add, you have to employ another 5 people, whereas scaling is for every 30 properties that you add, you just have the right team that's optimized and efficient enough to be able to scale without having to increase your costs effectively. So it's all about efficiency and optimization. And again, being a data-backed company, that's very much part of our lexicon and something that we believe in.
Yeah, and look, I really love, everyone is saying something similar but different, because they are living the scaling process and they feel something different. So, getting closer to the end of this episode, I want you to recommend something to our listeners. So, what are, for your company, the most important 5 pieces of service or software that for you are absolutely necessary to scale a business?
And this is where I'm going to slightly bring a baseball bat to the question. I think it goes back to the main difference between us and a lot of your potential listeners is that the way that most property managers are going to work is that they're going to sign some properties, and then they're going to decide that they want to list those properties on, let's say, the 3 major OTAs. And we know that the percentage of direct bookings for most property managers is usually very small. For urban markets, it's 3%. In leisure markets, it's 30%. So therefore, they're hugely reliant on OTAs, and that's their first tool. And then they've got a channel manager to distribute onto those OTAs, and then they've got a PMS to use, and then they've got maybe a guest app service provider, and then they've got a revenue manager service provider, and maybe they're then using a CRM, and they're using all these tools that constitute their tech stack. And then when you ask them what their biggest pain points are at each of the conferences that you guys organize, it's always, well, it's this PMS or it's that, etc., etc. And it's just, on my part, seems like a total nightmare. So my answer to your question is that we don't use any tools, really. We have developed our own tools, and the peace of mind that affords us is that in the same way that we don't do the physical property management and we don't do the cleaning and we don't have third-party software either, it means that we're able to 100% focus on optimizing performance, revenue, and occupancy rate. And I think that therefore I can't suggest any tools to use, because I believe that my tools, at least for my needs, because they're bespoke, are better and perform better for us, at least, than a lot of those tools. So I'd actually, a word of advice would almost be to look inwards. And obviously it's a different budget, but it's also actually saying, what do you need? And maybe can you do it yourself?
Okay, but do you think this is sustainable? Because many times, being a property manager is already a busy, profession, and say, oh, I have to develop my own tools. Say, oh, wow, this is absolutely not in my to-do list, or I don't have the budget to develop my own tools. Do you think at some point where you say none of the tools available in the market are really providing me what I'm looking for, where is the breaking point to say, now I need to develop my own tools?
Yeah, and I think that's a good question, in the sense that I wonder if it's possible today. We were lucky enough to be able to develop our own tools before a lot of the OTAs and channel managers and PMSs even existed. So for us, it was because we had a tech background as well. We didn't really have a choice. It was just that's what we were going to do. Now today, it's definitely quite difficult because you're playing catch up, because a lot of the PMSs and the revenue management tools and the dynamic pricing tools are all really good, and therefore to develop a tool that's that good now is difficult. Whereas us, because we're already in that situation, we're already doing it, and we can see that the results that our tool can provide for us performs better than a lot of these third-party tools, just because it's constructed around our specific needs and is, our PMS now is incredibly powerful. It's doing booking management, inquiry management, revenue management, reporting, centralized owner communication system. There's so much data in there that's so rich, and we have access to all of it, and that's really what makes our strength.
And last one, the $1 million question is, what you recommend to any property management company? What are the things they need to do to scale? So based on your own experience, on your own journey and the experience you had in the holiday rental market, what is the essential thing to scale a property management company these days?
Ask yourself where you can actually provide value. I just think so many people don't ask themselves that question. And when I say provide value, it means ask yourself what your unique selling proposition is. What makes you unique? Or are you just an Airbnb manager? Because there's two different things there. And I think that when we're talking about scaling, an Airbnb manager, there's a ceiling to that, because you're dependent on a third party, you're dependent on an OTA, and therefore you've not got that control, and you're not really that different to any of the 1 billion other Airbnb managers on this huge platform. So I think it's very much, we're doing so much work right now on our end, on defining what our brand is, what our identity is, who we are, where we position ourselves in the market, what is it that we actually sell, how are we different, and because, as you've said yourself, so many people end up in the industry by mistake. I think that there's fundamental exercises that should be done when you create a business that end up not being done, because basically people manage one Airbnb, then two, then three, then they go, oh, I can make this my full-time business, and they do it, but they do it out of how easy it is to do it, rather than leading that decision with a purpose and an intention which is clearly defined. And therefore my piece of advice is try and stop for a minute. Stop cleaning, stop welcoming guests. I know it's difficult because everyone's very busy and that's always the excuse, but ask yourself the right questions. And there are so many tools out there that can help you accompany, and so many people out there that can help you and accompany you on asking yourself the important questions of who am I, but most importantly, what value do I bring, and how am I unique? And that would be my main piece of advice, because if you've not got a brand, if you've not got an identity, if you've not got an OVO Network t-shirt and an OVO Network flask, I'm not saying you have to do those things, but you need to understand who you are. And I know that it's an existential question, but I think it's a fundamental question, because otherwise you're going to be at the mercy of the OTAs, regulations, and these third-party tools that you use. And therefore, if you don't take back the control, well, effectively, you are just an Airbnb manager. And I think that people should aspire to being more than that.
So be the first one. This is sort of your recommendation. Be the first one, and the groundbreaking one.
Yeah, sure. Creativity is key.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Luis, and see you soon.
Thanks, Gianpaolo. Take care.